So, Ms. Thomas, if you would like, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. In the spring, Twitter determined that they would attach a label to public broadcasters, and they did this across the board. And the CBC, of course, had this done to its profile, and so it had a label that said "government-funded broadcaster" attached to it. And when interviewed, the CBC said that this was a threat to journalistic independence. This is curious to me because to have it announced that public dollars were being received and used by the CBC was somehow a threat to journalistic independence. And yet Ms. Tate has contended here today that receiving government money is not a threat to journalistic independence. And so I'm confused as to which one it is. On the one hand, when Twitter makes it public that government dollars, $1.4 billion, are being received by this organization to put out news, it is all of a sudden a threat to journalistic independence. But if a conservative was to bring that up, then no. It is not a threat to journalistic independence. My question to Ms. Tate is, if the CBC was given the opportunity to be truly independent and set free from the shackles of government money, would they be okay? Would they continue to provide Canadians with news?
It would be extremely difficult to provide news to many of the underserved communities, rural communities, your own community, Lethbridge, the North, Francophones living in minority communities across the country. We would not have sufficient funding because the reason there is no commercial private news in those communities is because it's not economically viable. So we have the privilege and the honor of serving Canadians in those communities using the public funding that we receive.
So when 100% of the CBC's budget is dependent on dollars being given out by the federal government, that would mean that there's dependence there, which is to say the opposite of independence. When the CBC CEO, the president, Ms. Tate, just said to me that they would not be able to provide the coverage without that money, again, that says that they are beholden by the government. They cannot survive without the government dollars, which means then that it's hard to believe that the news coverage is entirely independent. And so I'm curious as to how the CBC can then claim to be independent if they can't survive without the government dollars.
Well, I should just correct the record. Our funding is not 100% government. We also have
Ms. Tate, I didn't say funding. I said budget. Your budget is 100%.
No, it is not.
On...
No, it is not. Our budget is $1.8 billion. The balance is earned revenue from advertising and subscription. So we have
$1.4 billion taxpayer dollars.
Plus another $400 million in earned revenue. And we manage that budget as best we can to deliver the maximum service across the country.
Sorry, the question was, how can you assure Canadians that you're functioning independently when, in fact, the CBC is reliant on government dollars?
I believe
the CBC took offense to Twitter attaching this label that they do, in fact, receive government dollars. And the CBC admitted that receiving those dollars, I quote, threatens journalistic independence.
If I may, on the Twitter issue, Mr. Chair, it was the accompanying Elon Musk diatribe that described government equals state-funded. And in a global environment that I have described, where 80% of the population of the planet is...
To be clear, Mr. Chair, just to clear the record, because I know Ms. Tate appreciates clearing records, the label attached was government-funded.
Correct.
Not state-funded, government-funded.
That is correct, but if you read the diatribe of Elon Musk, you would know that what he was talking about was state-funded. And CBC
Radio Canada... the label was government-funded.
Point of order.
Monsieur Julian, sur un rappel au règlement.
Point of order.
Not allowing the witness to answer the question is, again, very unparliamentary. Mrs. Thomas knows this. If you could ask Mr. Chair, that she respects the parliamentary rules.
Merci, Monsieur Julian.
Thank you, Mr. Julian.
Madame Tate peut compléter sa réponse.
You have 30 seconds.
To object to this labeling. It was a move and a campaign on the part of Elon Musk to, talking about badgering, to call any broadcaster, public broadcaster, and all our colleagues, ZDF, BBC, France Télévisions, New Zealand, Australia, all of the public broadcasters were attacked in this way. It was extremely important for us to clarify which we did.
Is an attack?
Merci, Madame Thomas.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Tate.